Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. Now it gets easier till the Seder, Erev Pesach in the morning. It's hard to learn. Everyone's up late by B'dikas Hametz, and then after the Seder in the morning, it's also hard. Besides for that, it's easy. I think the day after Purim is the hardest. That's because everyone's up late, and that's the hardest. Okay. Alcohol. Right. I think Hashem that we're able to learn in this chusma learning. We should have the best English immediately. So today we'll do Mem Dalet Amud Beis Amar Abaya. Okay, we were talking about an interesting thing. We're talking about the haircut of the Nazir. And if the haircut wasn't done on it's normally supposed to be done on the 7th day, right? No, wait, 1 second. If a Nazir's tamei, so he gets sprinkled on the 3rd and the 5th, and then he has his haircut on the 7th day. That's what we're talking about. And if he missed the day, if he missed the 7th, so he does the haircut on the 8th. So according to Rabbi Akiva, he was allowed to bring his sacrifices, special sacrifices for a Nazir that's tamei. It would bring that on the 8th as well. And Rabbi Tarfon said no, we'd have to do that on the 9th. Now, Tarfon, he learns this from the Mitzvah. The Mitzvah, that if he missed the 8th day, if he missed the 7th day, so he gets his hair cut on the 8th day, and then he brings the sacrifice on the 9th. So the Nazir should be the same. And Rabbi Akiva says that a Nazir is different than a Mitzvah, because the Mitzvah, after the haircut, has to go to the mikveh, and then they have to wait till nightfall. But by the Nazir, that's not the case. Okay, he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have a second mikveh afterwards. Anyway, yesterday we asked, did Rabbi Tarfon accept?
The second mikveh, the Torah has to go to the mikveh again after nightfall?
No, has to go to the mikveh after the haircut, and then wait for nightfall. So we asked if Rabbi Tarfon accepted the difference that Rabbi Akiva told him between the Mitzvah and the Nazir that's tamei. We answered that he did not accept it. Okay. Now we have, and then Ravik told us that it's, by the way, it's not a question. It depends not when he took the haircut. It depends when he went to the mikveh. Okay. Now Abaya says, Abaya says, I found that the friends of Reb Nosson Bar Hoshea, it probably means the yeshiva of Reb Nosson Bar Hoshea, that we're sitting and saying. Now, the pasuk that they're about to quote is talking about a zav. That's a man that has a abnormal emission, and he counts 7 days. If he has twice, count 7 days, and if it happens 3 times, then he has to count 7 days and bring a sacrifice. One time, it's just one night. It's just not 7 days. It's just a 1 day impurity. But if it's twice, then he has to count 7 days. So the pasuk says that after the 7 days, and he goes to the mikveh. So on the 8th day, the pasuk says, "Uvalifnei Hashem," comes in front of Hashem al Pesach Hayom Mayim, at the entrance to the tent of meeting. V'nastem al kayin, and he gives his sacrifice to the kayin. The sacrifice that he brings are these 2 birds. When does he come to the tent of meeting? In. That's only if he went to the mikveh before, because that's what the pasuk says. Count 7 days, and I think it says Barachatzas Besarei, which is the biblical way of saying he goes to the mikveh, washes his flesh, means he goes to the mikveh. So only if he went to the mikveh and he waited for nightfall will he be able to come to the entrance of the tent of meeting on the 8th day. But loy taval v'aseher of shemesh loy. If he didn't go to the mikveh and wait for nightfall, then he can't come to the tent of meeting. Alma kasavar tul yoyim shel zav kazav dami. What we're seeing from this is that if the person went to the mikveh on the 7th day, then he could come to the Beis Hamikdash on the 8th day. But if he goes to the mikveh on the 8th day, he can't come to the Beis Hamikdash on the 8th day, because the time period after the mikvah until nightfall is still like a residual tumah that stays in it. It's called the tvul yaim.
Rabbinic.
That's what we're trying to figure out. We're viewing now that it's biblical. You can't actually, that this impurity stays in it. It's been 7 days, and he went to the mikvah. But nevertheless, there's a process that takes place after the mikvah until nightfall, where the tumah doesn't go up. Or even after the mikvah until nightfall, the tumah still remains in it. By the way, the comparison that we have in the first Mishnah in Shas, Kriya Shema, when does the Kayan, when do we recite Shema when the Kayan can eat its truma? Because the Kayan had to go to the mikvah and then wait for nightfall, which is this concept of Tvul Yom.
That contradicts the Nida clause because the woman goes to mikvah that same day gets a mitzvah.
Yeah, well, by a need that doesn't apply. Because the Nida goes to the mikvah at night. This is only for those that go to the mikvah during the day, have to wait for nightfall.
We had a discussion about instances in which partial
Right.
halacha.
Right.
And here this concept
Does not apply.
going exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's considered 24 hours and sometimes it's until night.
Right. Here it's until nightfall. It's not 24 hours. What we're seeing here, so by Shema, just like by the Tumah, there's a residual Tumah that stays until nightfall. So too, when you recite Shema, there's a residual Shema that stays with you the rest of the day. That's why there's a comparison there. Okay, so that was the comment of the students of Reb Nosson bar Oshia, the friends of Reb Nosson bar Oshia. Well, Abaya says to them, Amina lohaina na, and I said to them, that's the case, that the Zav cannot approach the temple if he went to the mikveh that day. He has to wait for the following day. If that's the case, Nazir Tameh, when it comes to the Nazir, Nami had tiksiv, but there also it says, I have in brackets over here something. Yavish Teitayim, Alakayan, he brings the two birds to the Kayan, Al Pesach Hayomid, to the entrance of the tent. You would probably, he tells the students of Reb Nosson bar Oshia, you would probably say the same thing. When can the Nazir Tameh approach the temple with his birds? That Bisman Shetaval Vaser of Shemers, that's only if he went to the mikveh previously, the day before, and he waited for nightfall. But if it would be on that day, then he wouldn't be allowed to approach the temple. He went to the mikveh that morning. Why? So the Abaya asked them, Mechti, Share Nikanar Hecha Kaiman, the Share Levia. Where is the gates of Nikanar? Look. When he comes into the temple, so he doesn't go all the way into the Heichal. He goes He goes through the courtyard, the what's called Eser Snashim, which has the 4 rooms in each corner. Right. There was another room that had 4 rooms in the corner. That was the base of Micah, but there was. I'm not sure. There was this open roof, the Ezra's Nashim, which had 4 chambers and he would walk through that gate, and he would go up to this big steps, and the pictures have like these round steps there, and on top would have the gates of Nicanor. Those were the copper gates that came from Alexandria, with the miracle with the boat. Remember that story? There was a storm at sea, was bringing the gates over, and they threw over one of the doors. They had made these doors in Alexandria, and it floated under the boat. They wanted to throw over the second one. He said, if you throw that one over, then throw me over with it. So they let it stay on the boat. But when he got there, so the door was under the boat. It had come along, floated along. Anyway, so this is the entrance to the actual courtyard that the sanctuary is in. Now, the actual courtyard with the sanctuary is called the Machane Shechina. the gate, the area of the Shechina. There's three camps. There's the Shechina, the Leviah, camp of the Levites, and then the Israelites. So the area of Yerushalayim is the Israelites. From the Temple Mount until the gate of Nicanor is the Levites, and from the gates of Nicanor in is the Shechina. So where is he going? He's going to the gates of Nicanor. We're talking about the Nazir that's Tameh. What's he Tameh with? The corpse. That was exactly what he wasn't allowed to be Tameh with. He approaches those gates, but it's the problem. The Shari Leviah. That's in the entrance of the Levites. That's the gates of the Vatanya, and we have a brisa. Tamei meis matlikanis machna Leviah. He's allowed to come into the camp of the Levites. How do we know this? Not only someone that's impure from a corpse, even a corpse itself is allowed to be in there. No. Shenemar, look at this verse. Shenemar, it says, Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him. My imai. What does it mean with him? Imai b'mechitzasai. Together with him in his enclosure. Imai b'machna Leviah. It means that Moshe kept the coffin, the bones of Yosef together with him in the camp of the Levites. It means that when it comes to a Nazir that's Tameh, there should really be no problem with him approaching with his offering, because if you want him to walk all the way up, he can go as far as he would go, because he's only Tamei Mace, and a Tamei Mace, impure from a corpse, is allowed to go all the way up to where he needs to. By the Zav is not allowed to be in the Machna Leviah.
If Joseph's bones were like in a box, he wouldn't be.
No, they would still be Tamei.
Even if there's no like conflict, because to me, like if the bones are in the box, it's like different like bases.
Yeah, but a coffin is Tamei regardless.
Oh, okay.
That's a special halach.
How do you square this fact that like that the Levium can go to the base of the even though they're coming?
Well, the Levium are not allowed to go if they're Tamei, but they're allowed to stay in their own place if they're Tamei. They had a camp where they lived. You see, we're doing a comparison a comparison between the three camps in the desert. We transferred over to Jerusalem. So the Israelite camp in the desert gets transferred over to the city of Jerusalem. Moshe's area with the Levium in the desert gets transferred over to the Har Habayis. And then the actual tent of meeting gets transferred over to the Beis Hamikdash itself.
Okay, so the Har Habayis is next to the base of the
Right, right.
It's
They could be there if they're Tamei Mace. Tamei Mace. Yeah. There's a question that's like I think like I don't know if it's impossible to answer. It's not impossible to answer, but a very difficult question is that if a Zav or a Balkari is not allowed to be in Machna Leviah, in the tent in the area of the Levites, then how is it possible for the Levites to live there and to be with their wives? Every time they're with their wives, they become a Balkari, and it's impossible.
Who says they're with their wives?
Well, for 40 years they lived in the desert, in the area in the desert. It's like an impossible. How did that work? Unless you're going to tell me that they had two houses.
Well, I just assume that inside the temple courtyard itself.
No.
On the outside.
In the temple, there's different types of tumah. There's a leper that has to be out of all the camps. There's a zav and a balkari that needs to be out of the machane shchina and machane leviah. And there's a tamei mace that only needs to be out of the machane shchina. That's what we're talking about here. Yes, so there's levels here. Whatever the case is, Abaya says, well, if you say by the zav that he can't bring his sacrifices, you would probably say the same thing by the nazir that's tamei. And for that, there should be no issue because he could go up as far as he needs to. Now, the following Gemara is very difficult. First of all, well, mainly because there's different versions of the text, and no two commentaries say the same thing here. It's very complicated. You see right away there's a parenthesis. One version of the text is that El Amar Abaya, rather Abaya says, Tvul Yaim Shel Zav, and now it says Kizav, but you have to add in the word Lav Kizav. It's not like a Zav. He's arguing with Reb Nosson Bar Yoshi. You made a big deal that a Tful Yom of a Zav cannot bring in sacrifices. I'm telling you that a Tful Yom of a Zav is not the same thing. It's not like a Zav. That's one version of the text. Other version of the text is Ella. You skip the Amar Abaya, and it's actually Reb Nosson Bar Yoshi that's responding. And then you read it, Ella Tful Yom Shel Zav Kizav. It is like a Zav. Kizav Dami. It is like a Zav. But nevertheless, even the Mechusah Kapara, Lay Ayel. We have another rule over here. It's not just that the person's tamei. There's also another rule is that if a person didn't bring his sacrifices, that also is a strike against him and doesn't let him enter into the temple. Now the Gemara asks a question. You said that we're talking about that he's supposed to bring the birds to the kayin at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If you're saying that he only goes to the Machane Leviyah, which is one camp out, which is by that outer gate, right? By the gates of Nicanor. If he's talking about the Machane Leviyah, so why are you calling it the tent of meeting? It's the courtyard that's in front of the tent of meeting. The Meimar, it's coming to tell you that if someone hasn't brought his sacrifices yet, then he can't come into the tent of to the camp of the Levites. Where do we know that he can't come into the tent of meeting, and by extension also the camp of the Levites? Tanya was taught in the Brisa, Tamiyah. He is Tamei. The Rabbi's Tful, that's coming to include someone that went to the mikvah. Include someone that went to the mikvah and hasn't waited for nightfall. The Tumas Stilanam, the Rabbi's Mechusah Kapara, someone that hasn't brought his sacrifices, also is not allowed into there. Now, I'm not sure what the Gemara is saying at the end. Does it mean to say, I mean, he has to be able to bring a sacrifice, he has to be able to get there to bring his sacrifices. It sounds like you can't go because you haven't brought the sacrifice. So how do you bring the sacrifices if you can't go?
Could it be that he's only allowed to go there like with the sacrifices in his hand?
Maybe that's what it means.
This is the gate, the doors.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the four corners.
Those are the four corners. We're going to discuss that soon.
Okay.
Okay, let's start the Mishnah. Tiglachas Satara Ketzad. Now we're talking about not Tiglachas Tuma, which was the last Mishnah, but Tiglachas Tara. Tiglachas is the haircut. Tiglachas Tara. That means if the Nazir completed his 30 days and he was still pure. So how does he shave his head? He has to cut off all his hair after the Naziriteship is over. He brings three animals for sacrifices. That was the pigeons were by if he was tamei. If he's pure and it's the regular, everything is in order, then he does it with the animals. He brings a chatas, an oila, and a shlamim, a sin offering, an elevation offering, and a peace offering. The first one that he slaughters is the peace offering, and then he can already cut his hair after the first sacrifice. Divri Rabbi Yehuda, that's the words of Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to have the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lazar, and we'll have Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lazar.
No, are you okay?
Okay. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's where it was Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Lazar is Rabbi Yehuda's friend, also a student of Rabbi Akiva. He says, That's not accurate what you said that he cuts his hair right after he brings the peace offering. He cuts his hair after he brings the sin offering. And according to Rabbi Lazar, because the sin offering is brought before the peace offering. So what he's saying is that you have to you can cut the hair after the first sacrifice, whichever one it is. But I'm telling you, it's the chatas.
The chatas is always first, or not necessarily?
According to this view, the chatas is first, according to Rabbi Lazar. But if you brought it out of order, whichever one you brought, you cannot. If you did cut the hair, you're already yaitzer. After, as long as it was after one of the sacrifices. This doesn't seem to be associated with with the argument. He says if someone brings or designates 3 animals, but he doesn't say which animal belongs to which sacrifice. He says, don't worry about that. That's not a problem. Because haru'uya lachatas, the one that's eligible to be the sin offering, which by the way was a female sheep. So the sticker of chatas, I know already which animal that is. There's only one female sheep here. That's going to be the chatas, of course. La'ila, the one that's eligible to be the elevation offering, which by the way is a male sheep, a young sheep, a male lamb. So I know which one that is. There's only one male lamb here. So that's sticker vayla. That's brothers naila. And then l'shlamim, the one that's eligible to be l'shlam, which is the ram, which is the older male sheep. So that's sticker of shlamim, brothers l'shlam. So since each one of these sacrifices is a different animal, so you can recognize what they are just by the what family they belong to, what age they're.
Usually a chatos is required first.
I think so.
Because it's the one that's compulsory. So I guess the discussion here is whether for the Nazir, the normal order is changed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm not sure even why does Rabbi Yehuda say the shlamim comes first? Does he argue? I guess he's arguing with Rabbi Lazar. Okay. The Gemara starts like this. Tan Rabbanan, start in a brisa. The Gilach HaNazir Pesach Mayid. The Nazir shaves his head at the entrance to the tent of meeting. B'shlamim Makasav Medaber. He's talking about after he brings the carbon shlamim. Shenamar, as it says, V'shachtu Pesach Mayid, that they slaughtered at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Now, we think that because it says at the entrance to the tent of meeting, we think that that's referring to the shlamim. Why? You say that that's referring to the shlamim, which is the peace offering. Maybe when it says v'shachatu Pesach Mayid, I'm sorry. Maybe when it says v'gilach hanazir Pesach Mayid, it actually means not. We're borrowing the term, the entrance to the tent of meeting, and say that it's referring to the peace offering. And you could read it literally and say that it's referring to the entrance to the tent of meeting, which would mean that he actually gets his haircut at the entrance. It would be like a barber, according to this thought. It would be.
All 3
Well, the carbon was brought in the Zara, right? But we're saying that because it uses the term entrance to the tent of meeting, which that's where the shlamim was able to be brought, because the other sacrifices had to be brought on the north side. The entrance to the tent of meeting would be more center. So we're saying, oh, it must be, that's associated with the shlamim. So we're saying that he shaves his head after he brings the shlamim. The Gemara says, but maybe it means that he shaves his head right there at the entrance to the tent of meeting. There's a guy over there, and okay. Amrit Kane Derech B'Zayinu. Gemara says no, that's impossible. That would be a disgrace to have a haircut right in the like a haircut in the shul, in the Azara. It must be that he gets a haircut outside, probably in the area in the woman's courtyard, Ezras Nashim, not at the entrance itself. Rabbi Yossi says I don't even need that. You're telling me this. I have another source. It says. The Torah says, you can't use steps to go up to the altar. Why? Because when a person takes steps, so he separates his legs to walk up the steps, and that's considered like revealing his nakedness. So
all the Kohanim have to wear pants.
You have to wear pants. Nevertheless. So yeah, it is only by the altar. It's only by the actual ramp that goes up. So kal v'chaymer l'derech b'zayin, for sure, if it's something would be a disgrace to take a haircut. If you can't have steps, for sure you can't have a haircut there. Now, I don't know when in history this following Gemara entered into our text, but it actually tells us that it's not part of the Gemara. See the brackets? says Nusach Acher b'Medrash b'Parshas Nasa, Tafresh Mem Beis. Somehow this got added in. There's a Medrash. Do you have that in your text?
Yeah.
It's probably, it may not be in the English. Nusach Acher. Yeah, there's another version. Oh, so you do have it. Anyway, what it says over here is just the same thing that we said. Begilach Hanazah, the Nazir shaves his head. Rabbi Yeshia says that B'shlamim Makasim Medaber, it's only talking about the Shlamim. Maybe it means that he shaves his head at the entrance of the 10th meeting. In Kacham Mater Leisal, if the Torah says that you can't use steps, obviously you can't get a haircut in the actual temple. It must mean that you get the haircut after the shlamim was brought. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak, but no, they didn't have steps in the Mishkan, but we're only referring to the ramp that went up to the
Oh.
yeah. Now, if the Medrash is being quoted in the Gemara here to teach us something, it would be telling us is that Rabbi Yeshia is saying the whole thing. In our Gemara, we had Rabbi Yeshia sort of arguing on the Tanakama. In the Medrash, you have Rabbi Yeshia reciting the whole thing. There's no argument. Whatever the case is. Rabbi Yitzchak says, I don't need this. It says, I have another pasuk. Take the hair and they would put it on the fire. They would burn the hair that they cut off. Now the hair went on the fire underneath the pot that was cooking the shlamim. They had a ram. The Nazir had a ram. It's called El Nazir, the ram of the Nazir. And from that was taken out one leg, the arm, which is the animal leg, and the forearm or something, and it was given to the Kohen. That was called the Zreya B'Shela, the cooked arm. We learn a lot of things from that. And underneath that pot that was cooking the whole thing, must have been a huge pot, was a fire. So they cooked fire, microwaves, and they would they put the hair on that fire. No, it couldn't have been. It was. Assume it was in the Azara. We'll see it. We'll see now. The Gemara is going to discuss this. But
The hair was burned.
The hair was burnt. Yeah, it must have smelled terrible.
Do we know the reason why it was put like underneath?
No, I don't know. It's just what it says in the Torah. I don't know. Doesn't mean that we don't know.
I'm sure it has a meaning.
Yeah, archaeological dig in Shiloh recently uncovered a huge cache of the bones.
Oh,
And they were all, it's the right foreleg that was given.
yeah.
It's just a
I
little
think so.
outside Shiloh in several places, only right legs.
Uh-huh.
Theorized that those are places Rouhani went to eat.
Wow.
I think they can be anywhere but in sight of the Mishkan.
Right. That's how Shiloh worked. Because Shiloh didn't have a wall. So as far as you could see. Okay. So you would take the hair and you put it on the fire. Since the shlamim could be slaughtered right next to where it was being cooked, so then you wouldn't have to bring the hair. You would just be able to put it right there. Yeah. So that's what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying. Okay. Ikadamri. There are those that say Rabbi Yitzchak b'shlamim makasav b'dabratim b'shlamim makasav. We got another version over here. The commentaries take this out. The place that they would cook, that's where they would shave it. And where they would cook it would be not in the courtyard, in the main courtyard itself, but they would cook it outside in the Ezras Nashim. I think there was a room over there that was called the Lishkas HaNazirim. One of those corners in that was called the Lishkas HaNazirim. Yeah, let me see that. Chamber of oil and wines, chamber of lepers, chamber of Nazarites. Yeah, this would be the where are on the, that's the stuff, and it's the southeast.
Yeah.
The southeast courtyard is the chamber of the Nazarites. That means the first one that you would reach on the left. When you walk in, first one on the left would be the chamber of the Nazarites.
Mhm. Why is it? It says women's hall.
Yeah, it's called the
'Cause they
women's
can't
hall.
come
They would come up, yeah.
But it's for men too.
Yeah. Abachanan Aimer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Abachanan says the name of Rabbi Eliezer. Now we're going back to Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus. It says, "Begilach hanazir Pesach hayom ma'id kolzman she'ein Pesach hayom ma'id pasuach eina megaleach." You can only shave once the door is open, which means after daybreak. Once they open the door, that's when you are allowed to shave. The Nazir's head. We're learning what does it mean at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Of course, they couldn't shave inside at the entrance itself, so it must be teaching me something else. One says that it's teaching me that it was after the shlamim was brought. One says that it was only at the time that it was open. You couldn't shave it at night. That it's only the Nazir that was allowed to shave over there. But if there would be a Nazira, which means a woman Nazirite, she would not be allowed to shave there. Maybe this will entice the young Kayanim. Pirche could mean sprouting, which means they're sprouting their beard, the young Kayanim, or it could mean perach from the word efrayach, which means like a young chick, and that would be like a young man in this case.
We use this term also. They were guys who climbed up the ladders.
That's right. Pirche kuna would. And we use the term also when they would sleep on the floor. Yeah. Okay. So Amr Lai, they said to Shimon Shazuri, you're worried about the woman shaving her head. I could disprove you because a saita, this woman is brought into the courtyard. And she's there. We're not concerned that the young Kayanim are going to have thoughts about the sight of woman that's there. Amar Lahan. So they responded. He responded to them. This is Reb Shimon Shazuri saying it's much different. This woman that's a Nazira, she has her eye painted blue, and she's putting on blush. She's all full of makeup. But the Saita was not allowed to be all dressed up. They actually made her look not pretty. They tied a rope above her chest and all that. Okay.
Can I say something? What's interesting? At the beginning of Nazir, we brought the fact that one of the reasons a person might become a Nazir is because you saw a sofa, this is the adult, and think of those things associated with alcohol, and therefore one become a Nazir. And here we're making almost like
Very
a
interesting.
similar Gzera Shav, but Lahavdil. It's just interesting how it's always supposed to be.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Shimon Shazuria, they didn't agree with the earlier stages about the shaving at the entrance. Like he maintained that was the proper way.
I didn't know that that's the case. Is that what it says clearly? That's interesting. What the comment in this Koran edition is discussing if Reb Shimon Shazuri is agreeing or disagreeing with the earlier opinions. It could be that it's not related. Reb Shimon Shazuri is just telling us that a woman should not be shaved. Her head shouldn't be shaved at the together with all the Kohanim. It would be done probably at home or something. Or that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Now, what is his opinion about what the location is? Could it be at the actual entrance of the tent of meeting? That's a discussion. Okay.
if she shaves at home, she carries in the bag and it goes.
Probably. Oh, yeah, yeah, let's take a look.
From here, like what I took from it is that here that he maintains that they do it at the entrance,
That's one opinion, right?
but that the women they're
No,
not allowed to do it
right.
at a public place, so they would probably do it elsewhere.
Right. Right. Okay. I'm sorry.
Don't throw your grandmother under the bus.
Right.
And here we have.
Throwing the hair under the pot. Yeah. Hayanatal Saresh Nisrei. The new Mishnah. Okay, he's shaving the hair of his head. Mishaleach tachas adud, and he puts it underneath the pot. The dud is the pot, big pot. Ivim gilach b'medina, but if he shaved his hair somewhere else, outside, not right here at the temple, then layhem mishaleach tachas adud. Then he would not put the hair under the pot. Then it would have a different halacha. We'll see soon. When do we say this? This is only when he's shaving his head because he completed his naziris. However, there is another possibility. But if he wasn't able to complete the naziris because he had to restart because he became tamei, and in order to restart, you have to shave the head as well. So then, then he would not put it under the pot that's cooking the sacrifice. Rameir says, Rameir says that everyone would put it underneath the pot unless someone was tamei. And was not in the temple. Yeah. What happens actually with the hair, if it's not put under the pot to be burnt, has to be buried. And you can't do anything with it. So it's not like you can turn it into a shaitel. Something, oh, this is a Nazir hair shaitel or something. Yeah, you can't have any, they're very expensive. Human hair.
Is there a more Kabbalistic reason? Is it like nails,
I don't know. I guess it was like designated for God, and that's what it has to be. You can't have use from it, maybe. Not a Nazira, not a Zava. Okay. The Gemara says, Neitel Saresh Nizrei, take the hair of the head, you put it under the pot. The interesting halacha that when the Nazir burns his hair, first he has to put a little gravy on the hair from the pot, and then he burns it. If he puts the hair underneath the wrong pot, and the pot of the chata sadashim, that's good enough. The Gemara says, Asham ben Nazir tar miyeka. What's an Asham doing over there? There's no Asham there. An Asham of a Nazir is only if he became tamei and he had to restart, then he brings an Asham. Regular Nazir only brings a chata, sa'oila, and a shlamim. Amarav achi kamar, im Nazir tamei, mishaleach tach sadud Asham yatza. Obviously following the other opinion that holds that a Nazir tamei does burn the hair, right? Which is the view of Reb Meir. Where do we know this from? Amar Kra. What actually are they asking? Yes, where do we know that it's put under the pot of the shlamim, and if it goes under another pot, your yaitza? Amar Rav, Amar Kra, shetachas zevach shlamim. Under the pot that's cooking the shlamim. Now it says the word zevach shlamim, the sacrifice of the shlamim. Zevach could also mean festivity, but here it means a sacrifice of shlamim. Mizivcha yehi tachtav. Oh, so what it's saying is, it's adding in that detail. That how do you know that you're supposed to put some gravy onto the hair before you burn it? Because it says tachas zevach shlamim. That what it means is that you take the from the zevach and you put it under the shlamim. So it means you take some of the gravy and you put it mizivcha and you put it underneath.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
excuse me, obviously I'm ignorant here. Up until now, I always envisioned these sacrifices being just burnt like on the fire, not in the cauldron. And now all of a
This
sudden,
is unique. Well, the sacrifices that are offered up on the altar, that goes in, that's on, yeah, just on the coals.
so these
This is going to be eaten. This is going to be, this is cooked. And the part of it is called the Zroya B'Shela, the cooked arm has to go to they would cook the whole thing in one pot. The whole, there's a special halacha. So,
when he said draw, you mean the draw with the stomach?
no, there was one arm that went to the Kohen,
And this is not.
and the rest
part
of it was eaten by the
three
people.
part thing. You know, whenever you do korban, 3 parts went to the Kohen.
Oh no, this was different.
Different.
Yeah.
And it's really complicated.
Yeah. So one second, did the other parts of the shlamim by this El Nazir? But usually chaz, what did they get? The Zroya, no, not the Zroya L'chayai, the chaz and the shaykh. Zroya L'chayim in the keva. But that was by the shlamim, was out by every animal. Okay. So, so we have zevach also that tells me that you can also, so basically we're learning two things from the word zevach. We're learning one, that you have to put some gravy on it, and also we're learning that it doesn't have to be the shlamim, it could be a different sacrifice. But you already used the word zevach to tell me that you're supposed to put some gravy on the hair. So it says, well, then it could have used a different word if it just wanted to tell me gravy. Could have said right away gravy. Why does it say zevach? Coming to teach me something else that you can also, if it's put under the sin offering or the guilt offering, that's also good. How do you know you're supposed to put gravy once you're using the word zevach? So then the order would have been different. It would have said shlamim v'zevach. That would be telling me the shlamim plus the other sacrifices. Zevach hashlamim is telling me that two things. My zevach hashlam shma min atati. It's going to teach me two things. Taner rabbanon, taner braysa, kol hayim meshalchen tachsadud, chutz mitame shegilach mdina neshasari nikbar. Except for one that cut his hair in the country, which means not in the temple. His hair, that Nazir, his hair had to be buried. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yudaimer tahirim kan v'kan hayim meshalchen. If they were pure, then it would go under the pot. Meim kan v'kan hayim meshalchen. But if it was the Tamei Nazir, then it would not go under the pot. Doesn't matter if it was in the temple or if it was out. Come and say, yeah, you needed two criteria. You needed to be tar, and you also needed to be in the temple. Otherwise, and you're missing one of those, even if you're in the temple, but it was because you had to restart, you don't burn it. And even if you were tar and outside the temple, you don't burn it under the pot. It was just buried. No, but tell me again. The only one that would burn it had to be in the temple. Oh, that's Reb Meir. That's Reb Meir.
Oh,
Now we're holding with this one. Look,
okay.
this one is, and the rabbis say
Okay.
no one would throw their hand on the pot except for a pure Nazirite in the temple, because only in that case is the mitzvah performed properly. Okay, it means you're listening. Okay, have a good day, everyone.
I gotta learn those. There's something wrong here.